When I got the phone call at 3 a.m. informing me that my husband was blinded by a suicide car bomb, he lost both of his eyes, they weren't even sure if he was going to live, my world literally blew into a million pieces.
The wife of one of our nation's wounded warriors getting an invite into the Oval Office for a meeting with President Trump. The focus, how to fix the VA.
I'm here in Washington this week to bring awareness to our veterans' issues.
Now the wife of one of those vets is hoping that Mr. Trump makes the VA great again, writing in an op-ed.
That's right, an op-ed that appeared in the Wall Street Journal yesterday.
I think if Mr. Trump wants to make America great again, I think honestly it needs to start with the VA. I expect to see some things happening in this new administration. Enough talking about it. We all know that it's horrible, and we're a living example of it. We've fought hard, we've worked hard, we've persevered. I'm telling you, we've had many dark days, and days where it was hard to see that your sacrifice was really worth it. He's never seen his children, and our family has carried that sacrifice. The advice that was given to us was to hire a lawyer to help us navigate the VA benefit system. That is absolutely unacceptable. That is not okay. Right. And it was an honor to stand up yesterday with the president on behalf of everyone who has served and share our story, because it's the story of so many.
Please welcome Tiffany Smiley.
And I finally understood that saying yes to yourself is nothing to feel guilty about. It actually makes everyone around you better. Your fulfillment will inspire them. You will be a better mother and a better encourager for yourself and for everyone else. If I can find my extraordinary from rock bottom, then I know anyone can. Joy is a choice. There's nothing I could do to give Scotty his eyesight back or get back the plan I'd had for our lives. But I could choose to not let that tragedy define me, to define our family, or to still my passion. Keep waging the battle. Because as you do, you will start to see miracles happen for yourself, ones you never thought possible. And all of a sudden, extraordinary will be your ordinary. I'll leave you with a quote from Glenda the Good Witch. You've always had the power, my dear. You just had to learn it for yourself. Thank you.
How did you handle your new life with Scotty with all the changes?
It was also a very dark time for me as well. And I just walked into his room every day and spoke truth and hope and life into him, and knew that this would be a catastrophic situation that he would overcome. We started dating our senior year of high school.
I definitely knew that she was the one.
We were married in 2003.
After graduating from the United States Military Academy, I received orders to deploy to Mosul, Iraq. On April 6th of 2005, I found a suspicious vehicle, and then boom, my world went black.
But this time I answered out of my sleepy fog, and it wasn't Scotty's voice. It was his best friend. He said Scotty was hit by a suicide car bomb. He said there's shrapnel in both of his eyes, in his head, and he's flatlined several times. Nothing could prepare me for walking into the ICU unit at Walter Reed Army Medical Center 7 days after I got that phone call. Nothing prepared me for that. It was scary. He was in a dark place.
I couldn't see a reason to continue.
He didn't want anyone coming in his room. He would even ask, like, why are you here? And I realized that I would need to be the hope for him. I made a commitment that I was going to walk into his room every day and tell him truth and tell him life and give him hope. So I met Scotty at Walter Reed, and every day I walked in and I said, you're going to be a speaker, you're going to be a teacher, you're going to write a book. And he would say, you're crazy. Look at me, look at this hopeless situation. I can't even get out of bed. And every day I would come in and I would say that. And I believed that he would be a leader. I stood ground on that. I didn't let anyone speak ill to him. I stood at his door. And I'll never forget this moment. You know, I was brought into a room with the doctors and social workers, and they pulled me in the room and they said, you have power of attorney, Mrs. Smiley. We want you to sign this paperwork to begin his medical retirement. And I said, no, I'm not signing it. And the doctor, chimed in and he said, well, he's blind. Do you understand that your husband can't see? Like, he has no eyes. Sign the paperwork. There's never been someone blind to continue service to our country. There was, high-level officials looking down on me saying, do this. And I said, no, I'm not signing it. I didn't care. I'm like, if he wants to serve, he can keep serving. Because he was struggling. And I just walked in and told him that he would never see again. And I knew in my heart, I couldn't go in and say, I just signed paperwork and now you're retired. You have no purpose. So being a nurse, I understood it would take this holistic approach. I was committed to it. And people say, why didn't you leave? You could have left. You didn't sign up for that. You're 23 years old. You'd only been married a year. But to me, my values are character and commitment and loyalty. So I took it off the table. That wasn't an option. And every day I spoke truth, I spoke life and hope into a very dark, deep, hopeless situation. No one had ever served in the military blind, ever. They thought I was crazy. So it gave my husband purpose to recover. And as he recovered, he petitioned the Army to continue on active duty, and it was granted to him. He became the first blind active duty officer to continue service to our country. I wouldn't trade anything that we've been through. I wouldn't trade it for anything, because God has painted this beautiful picture and shown me that his word is true. Yeah. And that when you believe in the visions and the gifts that he gives you, the miraculous can happen. And yes. God didn't have to show me, Scotty did become a teacher, he does speak, and he did write a book. And that's what I was telling him every day in this hopeless situation, when no one else. No. Yeah, no.
He stayed military too.
He stayed in the military. Yeah. No one else believed me. They thought I was like borderline crazy, during this time. But I was just trusting the vision that God was giving me for him during that time. And to see it revealed here on earth, lighten the burden. We really had to face the fact that our life forever on this earth was completely altered. Scotty would never see the faces of his sons. I would never see him playing in the park or pushing a stroller. We really had to come to terms with this was the burden for the rest of our life here on earth. So what are we going to do with it? Are we going to believe that God has a bigger vision than what we can see?
You're revealing the greater glory of God, and as great as you can reveal it. And this woman, I'm going to tell you something. We had generals like this, the wars would be short. I'm not kidding you. And here's the deal. She is just such a source of inspiration, and she's a beautiful person. But there's somebody in her that's so much more magnificent than the world can comprehend, but she's at least giving us a pretty clear glimpse of what he's like. Yes. And you can't see her now, but you can feel the radiance of the glory of God on her. Am I right about that, Scotty? Yeah, well, it's on you too, buddy. And it really is. There's a genuineness. This guy ran in the Ironman competition. What all is involved in that? Tell us what you did. You're blind. You got to swim. You got to ride a bike. Tell us just a little bit about it.
So again, like you said, I'm married to an amazing woman who lets me have a few extracurricular activities. So in the year that it took me to train 6 days a week, all year 52 weeks, I did a 2.4 mile swim, 112 mile bicycle ride, and then a 26.2 mile little jog. I think they call it an Ironman. But I did it with my brother-in-law, and it was just a true race of life. One of the most difficult, at least in my opinion, difficult Ironmans in Ironman history, one of the largest did-not finishers in Ironman history, a temperature of 107 degrees, just absolute miserable. Bicycle tires were popping, but it was that kinship with my brother-in-law, the family, friends, just motivating us and inspiring us. And there was multiple times I wanted to quit. I wanted to give up. I couldn't see the finish line. I couldn't see my time that I could stop. But again, when I wanted to quit, my brother-in-law was there, my wife was there, my family was there cheering me on, just to keep putting one foot in front of the other. And it was that inspiration that last quarter of a mile, it literally felt like I was running on clouds. Like, it was so amazing. But in the end, it's the race of life. It's like, as we go through trials, go through struggles, can't see the finish line, can't see an end in sight, cannot see how we can get out of this problem or situation. It's having faith. It's having that knowledge that God is with you, that your family, the community is there to support you, to give you that hope, to give you that faith, just to keep putting one foot in front of the other with hope and with anticipation that your race will be complete.
I am Tiffany Smiley, and I am on a mission to watch as many women as I can rise. So I thought, okay, what if I created a space where women can come meet in person and grow and share their stories and have these real authentic moments together? And that's what inspired me to create More Than Me, because our journeys are all different. We're all at different places. But when we unify and we come together, you don't have to live alone. You don't have to live in your fear. Together, when we share our stories, we rise, we connect, we grow. And it's ultimately through our stories that we are able to change the world. That is sort of like linking arms and rising together, understanding that God created us for more. And if you have that burning desire in your heart, listen to it. I know what it feels like to be isolated and to feel hopeless and to feel like, does your life even matter anymore? But I also know what it feels like to wake up every day and take a little step. And maybe the next day you take a step backwards, but the next day you take 2 steps forward. And I know the power of never quitting and never giving up and rising every time you fall. Because when you fall, it's the beginning of your rise. And I've seen it played out in my life, not only in my husband's life, but in my life personally. And I had to go through my own pain, my own grief, my own feelings of loneliness. And I always think back, what if I stayed there? How awful. How sad. But as I look back, I'm like, you know what? And I think this goes for all of us. You just show up. You show up every day and you do your best. You show up the next day and you do your best. It's not going to be perfect. And sometimes your best is like a little tiny mustard seed that you can like barely gather the strength, but you're showing up and you're being your best. We've had an incredible journey. We've moved 8 times in 10 years. We've had 3 little beautiful boys. Scotty's written a book and done an Ironman and climbed mountains and got his MBA at Duke. And it's been an amazing journey. We've experienced the deepest depths of hurt and pain and the highest highs of walking with the most influential leaders in our country to bring change and hope to others. And you know, I think sometimes we think it has to be this big, powerful thing that happens in our life to like impact us. But I believe it's the everyday. It's the small things. It's the taking the step every day and not giving up. That's how we grow as leaders. That's how we grow in resiliency. What are you committed to every single day? Are you going to show up every day? That's how we grow our lives to be more extraordinary than we could have ever imagined.